Welcome to Word Up. Today we are discussing the term canon. So this video is for those of you that maybe have heard the word, you don't really quite know what it means, you don't know how to use it in terms of things like comic books, video games, books. We're going to discuss that. So first let's start with the definition of canon. The definition is a collection or list of sacred books accepted as genuine. That is the closest definition that I could find to really what we're talking about. Canon is often used to replace a word like official. Back in the day, there used to be books written about Star Wars, right? There were 100 books, and it was called the Expanded Universe. But then with Force Awakens coming out, they decided that these books no longer really counted because there's so many stories that happen, and now there's so much history they have to pay attention to, that they made a statement that said the Expanded Universe is no longer canon. So that means that it's not official. Whatever happens in it is not true. It doesn't count. So where did this originate from? Here's two examples. The first one is biblical, that in the Torah and in the Bible, there were sections that people didn't agree on that it actually happened, or they couldn't authenticate where it came from. So they call basically what we now know as the Torah and the Bible canon. But there are things that they consider not canon, which were removed. In the biblical sense, there's something called the Apocrypha, which is books and sections that were removed and aren't really considered to be completely genuine or authentic, or they can't prove it. The second example of where this term kind of probably came from is Shakespeare, that there's a lot of plays that people attribute to him that he didn't write. So the Shakespeare canon is the plays that we know that we can authenticate he wrote. But there's other books that people maybe originally said were Shakespeare, but are not. So those are not canon. For example, there's a play called The Puritan, and it came out and people said Shakespeare wrote it. But now there's people that believe and can almost prove that Shakespeare didn't. So here's an example of a sentence. The Puritan isn't canon. I don't think it's Shakespeare. Here's some other examples that might make sense to you. Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel. They finished their TV shows, but then a comic book or multiple comic books came out that are considered canon. They continue the story and they're by the same people that created the shows. The Angel comics are in fact canon. Sometimes you also might see fan fiction, so stories written by fans that is clearly not canon. So a fan of Doctor Who might write a story where the 10th Doctor and his companion Rose end up happily ever after. The 10th Doctor ends up marrying Rose? That's not canon, that's just fan fiction. Other times that canon can be confusing is things like video games. Like a video game based on a movie or a show usually isn't canon, but they're also not doing things that are extremely different, so they usually don't need to say anything. But oftentimes they might come out and say, yes, the events of the video game are canon. It's rare, but it does happen occasionally. So that's what canon means. Canon means it's official, whatever happens, that's it. So let me know if there's other words or terms that you want to see defined, you want to understand a little more in the comments. Tell me. Otherwise, this has been Word Up, and we'll see you next time.